What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 6. I think that speaking for us here in the studio, we've had a pretty interesting week. We finally settled all of our calendars and we're able to finally book a long due vacation to Europe.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's true.
That was this week, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
We're really excited.
I'm looking forward to it again, even though this only happened a couple days ago.
Yeah. Wait, did you end up booking?
Not yet. I've got to talk to my parents to watch the kid. But
Makes sense.
That's one downside of about having a kid, huh? Yeah, you still have to ask your parents for permission.
This is on the lower end of downsides, but yeah, I agree.
It's like going back to when you were a kid, where you have to ask Mom, Dad, can I go out to Timmy's house?
Yeah, I saw a TikTok about this. Basically, it was like, I'm still asking for permission to go out for different reasons now.
Yeah. It's funny. It's cool. It's interesting. It's a different part of life where you're just like different age, but you're still repeating the same thing. But now the reasons are completely different, and you have the money to go outside of Timmy's house, but to actual, European countries.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Lots to cover this week. Why don't you tell us what the fuck is going on?
Well, let's start with the mildly sad news first. Canada had a Canadian Indian being shot by the Indian government, and there's a lot of controversies going around.
Wait, so this individual was of Indian descent, living in Canada, and was pretty much shot by someone that was hired by the Indian government?
I have a lot of questions here, too.
Well, that's what they're saying, so that's why it's a weird one. I don't know if it's happy talk or sad talk or...
Definitely sad talk. This is someone that died.
Yeah, but okay.
How would he be happy? Unless this guy was a terrorist or something.
Yeah, like he was like a terrible person.
So that's the thing.
Even if it was terrible.
The Indian government is defining this as he was a terrorist. But then the perspective is Indian government does not have the same definition of terrorist as all the other governments. So it's very widely used. Anyone could be declared basically a terrorist.
This could cause a lot of tension between Canada and America and India, because
that's what's going on right now. There's a lot of tension between Justin Trudeau, and he said that they're investigating these credible allegations that the Indian government are making.
Yeah, no, I know that Canada is genuinely more on the standoff side when it comes to getting involved in this kind of stuff with extraditions and stuff like that, from historically speaking.
So India denied that they didn't do anything, but Canada thinks that they were Indian agents based on their intelligence.
It's an even bigger problem because Canada is a part of NAFTA, NATO, whatever, like the UN, of course, and it's a UN nation attacking another UN nation. Let's just say a Canadian citizen being killed by an Indian citizen. But isn't that basically like, the US, Canada, and Mexico are all one? So aren't you going to get repercussions from all the other countries too?
So a lot of countries have decided not to participate in this because they have been forming relationships of their own with India. Like America's like, yeah, you guys figure this one out.
Okay.
We're going to take a backseat on this. Let's try to understand a little bit about this person.
Yeah, I was going to say, who is this dude?
Well, so his name is something that I can pronounce on this podcast without hurting people's feelings. His first name and middle name is Hardeep Singh, but the last name, I'm going to spell it out, Nijjar.
Unfortunate name.
Yeah, totally.
Is that a family name?
It is a family name, yes. It's a last name. So he's a prominent Sikh leader and a human rights activist in Canada.
That's sick.
That is sick.
Now I feel like an asshole.
That was the one.
He was shot and killed on June 18, 2023. Outside the Sikh temple. I think that's sick. Like, that's like Sikh-minded thing.
That's very disrespectful.
That's crazy. Yeah. It seems to happen a lot too. Like even in India, right? There's a lot of attacks and all this stuff outside of Sikh temple. I don't know what they're called.
Gurudwaras.
What?
Gurudwaras.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it just seems commonplace for some reason for a lot of these to happen right outside.
Yeah, I think that's super disrespectful and goes kind of hand in hand with India's treatment of Sikhs and Punjabi people as a whole, because I know there's a whole lot of bad blood in that area. With how the Sikh people were treated in India and still are, even though being a large part of India's army.
I was gonna say, like, when I think of Indian military, I think of Sikh soldiers.
Yeah, yeah. So people in Canada believe that he was this really big protester and he was really good in the community. People remember him by the human he was, and that's why there's a lot more people who are actually like hurt by this, because to them he was like a really perfect person, you know?
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I think that like seeing someone so prominent in your community doing so much good and speaking out against injustices that they face, suddenly being assassinated, for lack of better words, from what seems like the government of a different country.
Well, the Indian government hasn't said anything, but what they have always stated that he was a supporter of the Khalistan movement, which seeks to create an independent Sikh state in India. So the Indian government has designated that whole thing as a terrorist organization.
So, Romy, I'm going to take a step back here. You said that the Indian government has the power to label anybody as a terrorist.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be something that I mean, obviously we do the same thing in America. It's that, these are people labeled as terrorists, but normally you kind of agree with what they're doing or why, like, they're being labeled, right?
I think there's a certain line. I think with any sort of government, it's very easy to label someone as a terrorist because there's disagreeing with government. And I think there's a very gray line in the middle that if you cross, you could just be labeled as a terrorist. Like, you could see that with the protests in America. You could see that with any sort of disagreement. Like, this same concept right now. We see this person as a threat, and there's this idea out there of a minority wanting their own space. So we're going to eliminate him in order to crush that idea.
This feels like an India thing, right?
I think it's an everywhere thing.
Yeah, I think it's an everywhere thing. You could see it with what's happening with Palestine and Israel. You could see it with all the Native Americans and America, and during World War II, the Japanese and America. I think what ends up happening is, and people don't learn from history, is once you try to nip something in the bud, and in India's way, unfortunately, it was to kill this man, all it does is kind of exaggerate and aggravate the situation and turning things into a position that they don't want it to go in.
Yeah, and it becomes much bigger than it needs to be. Let's just put that out there, right?
Yeah.
Because I would say, like, one of the things I think of when I think of this situation is that, they killed somebody, but I don't know who this person was. I don't know what they stood for, and I don't know how much of an impact they could have had. But was it worth the cost of life?
I totally agree with you. So, like, that's why it's a big divide, right? Some people think he was a terrorist because, so according to the Indian government, anyone threat to the national security of the state can be designated as a terrorist. So when you think about it, eliminating a terrorist is a good thing, and that's one less bad person. But to some people, he was a peaceful activist, and there's no, like, proof or anything.
Okay, so whether he is or isn't, based on the definitions by any government, is not really the issue for me. I think that's up to, a higher power than me, like government or a court of law, to decide. But I think what ended up happening, in my opinion, is that it did the opposite or inverse effect of what India or any of these countries hoped it would, right? Seeing someone that was a pillar in the community in Canada, someone that like did good for the community, suddenly being taken down and his life taken away like that, outside of a religious place, mind you. In my opinion, I think it sparks, rebellion. Seeing someone you considered very highly of being shot down in your own place of worship.
Yeah, I think that's the worst place to be shot at.
It becomes more socially charged if you're killed outside of any kind of place of worship.
Definitely, like from a people's perspective, yes, whoever is watching him die or found his body, it's like, oh yeah, you literally murdered someone in front of the temple or Gurudwara or whatever.
Yeah, no, but it's a disrespect to the Sikh religion.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it labels that place as no longer safe, right? So suddenly attendance is going to come down regardless.
Yeah, but would you say that for the deceased, is it a spiritual place to die right outside the place he worships, so he's closer to God?
Personally,
maybe that's like a very spiritual.
That's a positive
question.
way of looking at it, but I look at it in a different way.
I'm not condoning any action.
I don't think there should be any action of harm
Right.
performed against anyone.
Yeah.
But my opinion on this is I don't think that this is in a positive way as you would say it, because this is a place of peace. This is a place of God where you could let down your guard and be one with whatever spiritual entity or religious entity that you believe in. And to be in such a place of trust and have it be violated, especially for like maybe his family or people around him and him himself, I think that's very disrespectful. And I think that is very vile and malicious thing to do.
Yeah.
The place of it all.
Yeah.
All the other things I have no opinions or comments about because I don't know anything in this situation except
Right.
these two facts.
It was clearly I had to have been planned, not like just following him around and said, okay, this is the right time. It had to be planned. There's a message that was sent here.
Our
Tragedy.
prayers for the innocent, right?
Yeah. I think regardless, right? Like clearly someone's grieving here.
Yeah.
On that note, let's move on to the next thing that's going on, which is also what the fuck. Have you guys heard of the WGA strikes that just ended?
Yeah, I do. I like the theme of this episode. I think it's all about rebellion, huh? I think in more of a positive light, I would like to say. You know, I think there was a great example of the power that workers have in this country and finally being able to flex those muscles.
Peaceful protest, right?
Peaceful protests are great. I think it's a great way for workers to kind of show their worth and flex those muscles to show who's actually in charge and get their fair wages. I truly believe that these peaceful protests will help guide a new era and kind of put a damper on inflation or the gap between the wealth.
This exaggerates inflation, doesn't it?
What I mean is by inflation, I don't mean like in a economical sense. I mean inflation between inflated like salaries, if that makes sense.
I mean, I guess you're trying to bridge the gap here. I mean, like maybe with the Writers Guild, maybe that's fine. But like, how do you explain the ones with the motor strikes, right? Like the lower level employees who are unionized, trying to earn money and make a livable wage, right? Like that's still getting them to par.
Yeah. I learned a lot with the WGA strikes and the motor strikes, and I think one thing I couldn't say is fuck Drew Barrymore, fuck Stephen Amell, and all the props to Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver.
What'd they do?
So, for those that don't know, Drew Barrymore, like literally unfortunate time, 2 weeks before the strikes ended, the WGA strikes ended, she decided to say that her writers want to come back and they want to provide a show for her viewers. So she decided to start her show up again. Mm. Her writers came out and said this wasn't true.
Yeah.
Some of her main writers were not even invited back to the show because they were still striking. So she just wanted to be a scab.
You mean protesting?
Huh?
You mean protesting?
What did I say?
Striking.
Oh, I'm sorry. They were on strike. They were protesting. She just wanted to be a scab. And for those who don't know, a scab is someone that crosses the picket line for their own benefit. And
that is really crappy, though.
Yeah, it was super shitty of her. And, before that, I did have long respect for her.
No matter how well you're doing, you have to. It's not about you anymore, right? When you're on strike as a organization, as a union, it's not about you, right? It's the collective.
Yeah, definitely.
You could be the most successful actor in the world or on the country, right? Like in the guild.
I have a really dumb question. Who the fuck is Drew Barrymore? Do I know her?
She's an actress that was very popular. She did a lot of movies with Adam Sandler, and she was in 50 First Dates, if I recall correctly, if you know. If you've seen that movie.
Yeah, that was a good
I'm
movie.
trying to picture her.
Never been. There's some. She really had a good showing in the 90s. I think what her first movie that put her on the map was, I think she was in E.T. She was the kid. Not that like may help or not, but I will say like she's had a very long career, right? So like, does she need the money to like be like, oh, I'm gonna go against my organization to be a scab?
So isn't she just an older version of Katherine Heigl? Obviously, you think that my joke was not good enough. It didn't land.
Get the man his Razzies now.
Yeah. But no, for real, she just looks like if
I think she looks fine. I think after the whole scabbing incident, people have replaced all of her photos on Wikipedia and Google. Her morning show is one of the most highly viewed talk shows ever. But
Really? The Drew Barrymore show? I didn't even know this show existed until right now.
Yeah. I think that this was the thing that kind of set her back.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. With the writers' strike, I don't see an issue with paying them, right? Get them their money. Like, they were clearly underpaid for so long for all the work. I mean, there's a bunch of shows that kind of depicted this. Well, I don't know a bunch, but the one I think I can think of is 30 Rock. And they talk about the writers. They produce a show. We never watch the actual show. We just see the creative process in getting ideas. And they just, they're just people trying to make ends meet in their own ways. And then all they're doing is feeding lines to spoiled actors. Not that they're all spoiled and not that they're all like ungrateful, but they're the ones that make in millions of dollars, and they're just fed lines that they read off of a teleprompter.
Yeah, I think that kind of shows the difference and exemplifies the difference between Drew Barrymore and like when I was saying with Strike Force X, which is a podcast that was created during the writer's strike by Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver. Because they started this podcast just to kind of earn money and give it back to the writers that are picketing, just so they could sustain themselves a little bit. And like these people know, these talk show hosts know that like without the writers we're nothing, because this strike has been going on for 148 days, the second longest strike to happen with the Writers Guild.
Yeah, man, we're not getting the third Into the Spider-Verse
for another 2 years,
which is insane, guys.
Was it 2 years? I thought it was indefinitely now.
So last I heard, it was 2 years after what the projected date was.
I will lose my mind. You guys are literally ruining my mood now. We have a whole ass podcast to go, so let's not talk about Into the Spider-Verse because I really want it to happen.
I think I'm gonna ruin your mood even more with these statistics, man. I have to say that the writers during the pandemic were thrown out into the streets and their contracts were canceled. They were getting robbed of pay, and they were getting robbed of their residuals that they were grabbing. And with these big streaming services and big networks,
the streaming company is the issue here, right?
Yeah, and big networks were saying that like, oh, because of COVID, we can't do anything for you, and they were being threatened to be replaced with ChatGPT. But the thing is, in COVID, streaming services were on their peak, but yet they were still robbed of their residuals. Everyone and their moms was watching Netflix, Hulu, HBO Plus, Disney Plus.
So you're telling me that Suits, which was number one on Netflix the whole time, was essentially the writers didn't get a single penny, or the actors didn't get a single penny?
And the actors got zero. They got pennies.
Oh, that is bad. They gotta get like residual.
What
back,
drove
right?
that? Right? Is it just because like are in their agreements they don't? Is there no visibility in views? Like what is it? What is the reason?
Yeah,
for that,
a lot
right?
of these streaming services.
You can very easily like cite that and be like, hey, your viewership grew exponentially. I was paid this much when viewership was this much. And then now it's, 3-4x that. Why am I only making like 10% more?
A lot of these streaming services don't have much transparency when it comes to streams, especially with, I think Netflix is notorious for this.
Well, it's also because, okay, you're comparing a couple of different things, right? When it's on a TV channel like a network, at that point, you're getting paid by the ads, right? By the ad segment that you put in between your thing. Yeah. And your ad channels are always competing for like shows like Suits or like big network shows like Grey's Anatomy that that the viewership is coming in. Those ads are going to be more, so they can in return get a bigger budget from the network, right, and pay their actors and all of them more. On a thing like streaming service like Netflix, where everyone's paying the same amount of money, the cost of just operating is, I believe it's higher and not lower than a network show. Actually might be lower, but I'm not sure.
It's got to be lower.
Yeah, it's lower as a whole.
I think we're digressing though.
Yeah. Let's look more into like the strikes itself, right? 148 days, and what do they want, right? I think with the Writers Guild, all they asked for, which I think is pretty reasonable, is that they wanted a minimum compensation increase of 18%, provided the film had a budget of $30 million, plus a 26% increase in a residual base, which they were getting hosed in to begin with. Plus, they wanted some assurance that ChatGPT won't ruin their job or take over their job, as these big networks were threatening. I think we should end off with like our opinions on the WGA strikes. I think, in my opinion, it was amazing. I think it was done well. I think most people stuck to their guns, and rightfully so, except Stephen Amell. Fuck Stephen Amell. Andrew Barrymore. And I think that we did a great job. I say we, like I did anything, but...
Like, you're a part of it, man.
Yeah.
You wrote this episode, right?
And I think we need to see this trickle down into other industries, like we are seeing with some of the Ford work.
I will say I have a little bit of mixed opinions on the motor stuff, but I will say final opinions on this. I will just say, like, get your paper. I don't agree fully on, like, job security by force, where it'd be like, hey, we cannot be replaced by something. But at the same time, if you're doing your job, it should be never a struggle to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Especially when you're surrounded by people who are living lavishly.
Yeah, no, of course. I think if you're doing your job, putting in 40 hours a week, you should not be living in minimum wage or like living in poverty.
Definitely. I am in agreement with all of that. So what else you guys got for today?
Honestly, I don't really think I have anything. I'm just waiting to listen to some interesting stories.
Yeah, I think last week's Reddit was pretty good. So do you guys want to go to that next?
Well, I got a doozy for you guys.
Oh, not a doozy.
Yeah.
I'm already ready for this. Let's go.
All right, so let's start the next segment, which we call What the Fuck Did I Just Read? This one is kind of crazy because I started reading this and then I kept reading it and I kept reading it, and there were 5 updates which were almost as long as the original post, and it was so much that I was like, I gotta share it with you guys. We're obviously not going to be reading every single word of that because that would have been about 20 pages worth of it written.
Thank God we're not doing that.
Yeah. So I summarized the crap out of it. And so let's get started.
Let's go.
All right. So this was in Truth Off My Chest. And title literally threw me off. So it was called I Ruined My Mom's Life and Reputation. Automatically, I'm thinking, she a bitch.
Sex tape. Oh, what? Sorry.
So here's the story. So me, 40 female. My parents, dad is a 63 male and mom is 60 female, have been married for 43 years. So the parents have been married for 43 years. She has 6 siblings, all of very different ages, okay? 42 female, 38 female, 34 female, 20 males, so they're twins, and an 18 male.
They have a kid per day of the week.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Holy shit, 7?
7 kids, yeah. All from, like, the youngest one is 18 and the oldest one is 42. So that's a wild age.
Snip, snap, bro. Like, cut the dude's dick.
I mean, maybe they about that life, but damn, dude.
Yeah.
Like, tie tubes or something. 7? What are we trying to repopulate the earth?
It is going to get even more wild. Just hold on tight, okay? So this is the female, the 40-year-old female. She says, I've been with my husband, 39 male, since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. We got married at 18 shortly after. My parents gave me the house next to them as inheritance that they got from their parents. And they said I could keep the house and everything.
This is some generational wealth shit. They gave a house to their kid?
Not actually, like, I mean, they got it from inheritance and then they just passed it on.
That is literally generational wealth. Passing it on from did they pass it on from generation to generation?
Like, bro, are they giving you a cut? Like, are they like to like spin this a different way? It's like, no, it's not generational wealth. It was just their great grandpa.
You know who needs to get cut? The dad in this situation, man.
Yeah.
No. It just gets worse. Just listen up. All right. So they got the house, which is like right next to their parents, right? Like right next to it. So then she went on to have a 20 male, a 14 female, a 5-year-old female, and she's currently 7 months pregnant with the last child. So she herself is having her 4th kid.
Damn, it's a challenge in that family, man.
Yeah. So she thought she had a good marriage. They were intimate more than twice a week, went on date nights and bought each other gifts, and they didn't fight or anything. So, like, everything was good.
Yeah, I don't see much fighting happening when you don't have bills to pay like that.
She has bills. They're not rich. This is probably food stamp people.
Oh.
We have different definitions of not rich and free house.
You're envisioning a
I know.
mansion.
I am envisioning a mansion here.
Yeah.
It could also be like, oh, here's another trailer that I killed the owner of. This is yours now.
Yeah, seeing how he specified that it was right next door made it seem like, oh, the acre of land that we had in our family from generations, you may own the residence that was on it.
Yeah, the land is not, I don't think it's as vast as we're envisioning. So she's saying that her entire world was shattered on New Year's Eve when she returned early from a girl's trip she had taken with some friends.
Uh-oh.
I walked into my bedroom to find my mom having sex with my husband.
What kind of fucking twist is this, dude? Where is
This
this
is-
story going? I don't
It
know.
just gets worse.
This is too many plot twists.
My mother screamed at me and to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me even more. I first talked to my husband. I asked him the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They had been having unprotected sex at least once a month for longer than we have been married.
Wait. So, because there's
Yo.
some gaps there. There's some gaps there.
Call that MILF Manor.
I was going to say that 18-year-old, oh my God, that 18-year-old sibling that she has, I'm inclined to think that that's more...
So I ran the math and was horrified because the timeline meant my twin brothers and the youngest brother could have been my husband's.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess, and my dad was devastated. He and my mom were high school sweethearts too. Needless to say, we could hear the mom screaming from her house when he confronted her.
From her trailer.
I then told my older sister, and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22-year-old female take all the female daughter take all the kids to the basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adults up there. And I told them exactly what was going on.
That's some baller shit. But just
yeah.
imagining, these kids are watching Lilo and Stitch, and then the whole house is blowing up upstairs.
So apparently, most of the family was on her side, except
Most.
yeah, except
What?
the three youngest siblings who could be her husband's kids.
Oh, they're just defending daddy.
A 38-year-old female sister, and obviously the ex's entire family.
Oh, okay. Dude, I need some sort of cheat sheet for this thing, dude.
Yeah.
I'm losing track of fucking kids in
I
this
need
story.
friends friends and family like this to support you when you cheated on her with her mother.
For about 22 years. Do you understand 22 years of cheating? With the mom of your... Okay, it gets wild. So let me just continue on. I was so excited to do this podcast because when I read this story, I was like, I really just want to tell you guys all of this. So word got out, and my mom's best friend, who's on the leadership at mom's church, called me to verify. My mom has since been let go of the of her position as a children's pastor, and she claims that I have essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out, and she's now living with my 38 female sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the three youngest boys. The twins are my husband's bio children.
Ah.
I've since kicked him out, and he's living with his parents. Father and I are going to move to their dad's house and sell the home she's living in right now. He has no claim to it because it's her dad's house, right? That got passed down.
That RV life.
Also, she helped her husband set up her HVAC business. So she gets 50% of that as well. And the mom is probably not going to get anything out of this because the place she lives in, the state rules are there's no fault divorce kind of a state. So, she's at fault, so she won't get anything. I'm now over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially the hypocrisy of her calling me a whore and shaming my family when she has done so much worse.
Wait, Rory, when did she call her a whore?
When she got pregnant at the age of 16.
Oh.
So my ex got my mom pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant. And while I thought it was cute and fun that I shared pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half siblings. I already procured a good lawyer to help me with the financial matter.
Yeah, like what do the older siblings call them? Is it like, hey, brother, uncle? If it's because they're really like, that's what they are.
As of now, she had no idea how long the affair was going on, but the husband confirmed to me that they would have had sex at mom's office, at the church, in their cars, at a motel. When we built the business, they have started having it routinely in the office since I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses too, and when my father would go away for business trips.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
Jesus is right. Yes. He is watching.
Yeah, I mean, especially when they were doing it at the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's knowing they would carry out full-blown affair if she wouldn't have caught him. Still makes her upset. Also, to add insult to injury, and this is where it gets wild.
There's more insult.
So much more.
There's more insult to this injury.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, this is a pretty boring story up until now, man.
Yeah. The husband confirmed that in one of the mediated conversations that the affair started when I apparently made him angry. He didn't tell me and instead vented to my mom when they were alone. She comforted him and they had sex.
Oh, so it's her fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, duh. This reeked of that.
Oh, classic mad at my spouse fucked her mom situation. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
He loved it and then pursued her after that. He said he would have divorced me, but knew he would get cut off from her.
Wow.
And she was so much better at sex than me.
Oh my god, this keeps going.
So stuck it out with me. He told me I was a placeholder of all the betrayal and low blows. That statement keeps me up at night.
Low blows, huh?
Definitely. A lot of low blows. 20 years worth of blows.
Especially in church.
Yeah. All right. So that was the end of the first story. Then there's 5 updates to this. So just imagine how crazy this gets.
Bro, I don't know what direction this could go.
I want to meet this guy. I really do. For him to be like, I'm fucking your mom for 22 years, then being like, yeah, you were a placeholder. Your mom good, though. She knows how to handle that dick well.
Yeah, and this is all because you pissed me off one night.
Yeah. And like they were 18 or what, 17? No, she got pregnant at 17, right?
16.
Okay. Even worse, because
yeah.
it could literally be like, oh, I don't want to go to the homecoming game. And it's like, I do. And like, he's like, now I'm fucking your mom.
Right?
All right. So the first update. She wanted to get a mediated divorce, but my husband is claiming that the kid I am pregnant with is not his, and I could have cheated. He wants a DNA test of the kid. That's wild for him to just go around and be like, now, fam, you cheated.
Reverse
That's
Uno
a
card.
reverse card for sure, right? Yeah.
Oh my god, trap card activated. She's like, actually, I was fucking your dad.
That's the only way. Actually, you know what? Outside the other 4 updates, that's one of the other ways it could get really more. Only way it can get more interesting, I think.
Like she's like, yeah, your dad is also better at sex than you.
Yeah, your dad's slanging dick.
All right, so the second update is more of an FAQ kind of a thing. A bunch of people commented and asked questions. So here are the answers. All the kids look like mom, so no one ever guessed it that, whose kid is it. I honestly don't know all the reasons my 38-year-old female sister is on the egg donor side. Oh, yeah, by the way, she starts referring to the mother as egg donor moving forward.
Respect that.
Yeah. The sister doesn't get along with me or my sisters and hasn't since high school. I'm not worried about her. The twin brothers are upset that I sprung the news publicly. This is what my dad has gotten out of them. My dad sat them down and explained his reasoning for the DNA test was to prove the cheating, but he's always going to be there for them and not going to abandon them. He's still their dad regardless of whose sperm fertilized that egg. That's nice of dad, right?
That's nice of dad.
Yeah.
Weird way of phrasing it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but love dad for that.
I don't care whose dick you came out of.
Yeah.
But I would treat you like it was mine.
All right, update number 3. She had a conversation with her aunt. The aunt was like, it's not your mom's fault. It's all in the genetics. Grandma cheated. She cheated. Like, the aunt cheated. And mom cheated too. We call it the whore gene that's in our bodies as a family.
Some sound science there.
Yeah, the whore gene.
I wonder if they covered that in Bio 101.
No, that's a bio 1 or 2 subject.
Yeah, I
There
think
got to
so.
be some sort of
You
an
gotta
advance.
understand what a gene is and be like, oh, there are whore genes.
Yeah.
You got one.
All right, update number 4. My dad and my lawyer have encouraged us to meet with
Oh my god, I thought he was gonna be like, my dad and my lawyer are having an affair.
Who else is having a fucking
Yeah,
affair?
you know,
in this
everyone
one?
in the story is like, it's. There's a slight possibility of everyone in the story to have an affair at this point.
At least the one thing about this story I really enjoy is that, like, you know, at least everyone's fucking, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's getting their dick wet, or what else?
Yeah. So my dad and I's lawyers encouraged us to meet the egg donor for evidence and for quote unquote closure and try to understand why she made the choices. So she met the egg donors. This is how it goes. She said she knew it was wrong, but she enjoyed the attention. The sex was great and she enjoyed the thrill of it. She kept sleeping with my dad because she enjoyed the financial stability and carefree life and wanted to stay married. She purposely slept with him after each sexual encounter with my ex to endure if she got pregnant, she could pass the child off as his.
Oh, that is gross.
That's low and gross.
Yep.
Yo, that's devastating.
She also admitted to enjoying the knowledge that my ex enjoyed sex with her more than me.
Given what this woman is, I'm not surprised by that.
But that is so fucked up that your mom wants to one-up you in sex.
She's dirty, dude. She's dirty. She's like, I knew it was wrong, but it felt so right. That's some skank horseshit. I'm actually with her aunt about the whole whore gene. This proves it.
Oh yeah, whore gene activated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She then said that she's moving in with my ex to his new place and that she's invited the boys to live with them.
Oh,
The twins
shit.
have visited once since the affair, when the affair went public, and told her they don't like my ex and refuse to treat him like he's their father, quote unquote. She called me a jealous and ungrateful cow for not appreciating that she didn't abort me and let me live. That is crazy.
That's some twisted shit.
Yeah. She said,
Especially to spring that on her after
That's
40
a-
years. of
That's a
being-
different way. Like, you know, I've heard, like, I brought you into this world, I could take you out. But never ever seen, like, I brought you into this world, let me fuck your husband.
yeah.
And because you're mad at me about that, I could have aborted you. Just remember
Be
that.
remember
grateful
I
for
made
that.
that choice. Be grateful, you little.
She said that I should be happy that they didn't kick me out when I came home knocked up. She even had the nerve to say, I should be thankful she kept my husband happy when I couldn't, so he didn't divorce me and leave me a broken and damaged goods single mother. That is crazy. She actually thinks she did her a favor.
It's so bad that, given all the stuff that's happened in this story, I wasn't as fazed by that statement as some of the other shit.
It's like, okay, you know, I just think that, like, yeah, cheat. Like, I don't condone cheating at all. But, like, you know, people do it. And people make mistakes. And, like, if she were, like, groveling for forgiveness or something, it's like, okay, at least there's a human side to this person with remorse. But this mom fucking doubles down.
She doubled the fuck.
She's
tripled
literally
down,
just
man.
like, oh yeah, I knew it was wrong, but it felt so right, so I kept doing it. And actually,
You're welcome.
fuck you. Yeah, you're welcome. This one's on you. Why did you make him mad when you were 16?
Yeah, you should have just taken him to the prom. Said yes the first time.
So, you talked about doubling down. I'm going to triple down now.
Uh-oh.
She then told my dad that she suffered from postpartum depression after the birth of me, and my dad ignored it, and that's what made her feel alone. And instead of just hating me, she started to have affairs. She admitted to having multiple affairs from 6 months after I was born. So my 38 female sister
dude.
and my 34 female sister may not be my dad's either. And that ends update number 4. There's one whole big update left.
Just say it.
All right, guys. Okay, well, hold on. How many of these kids do you think her father actually fathered?
I don't know.
I mean, did she have an older sister? I think you mentioned older sister, maybe.
I don't know. I lost count, but I think there's 7 siblings.
Yeah.
3 of them are not hers.
So far,
Like not her dad's.
The tally right now is at 3. I'm honestly gonna say that only 2 of them are his.
You know it's fucking evil. And like not even like this whole thing is evil, but it's fucking also gross to be like, I just had an affair, but cover my ass. I'ma sleep with you.
And you're gonna put your dick inside where his stuff is still sitting. Let's take a moment to recognize it. That was my first thought, bro.
It was everyone's first thought.
Yeah, you had to put the words to it, man.
I was trying to dance
she
around
cleaned
it.
up. I'm sure she cleaned up.
She has the whore gene. She did not, sir.
All right, okay. So the last update, this is a big one, but I gave birth to my son in April, and he's healthy and has no health complication. She also got him DNA tested, and it is her ex's, so she did not cheat.
Oh, I was like, why is she confused? Now this makes sense.
At the end of March, she was able to get temporary full physical and legal custody of the kids. The 14-year-old asked me if I was willing to do family therapy with her and her dad. She didn't want to, but she fought it a little, but eventually chose to do it for the sake of the daughter. And so she can like process everything,
That's
you know?
some shitty thing.
Why? It's her daughter. She needs...
No, I get the 14-year-old needs this, but like
Yeah.
a shitty thing for the daughter to ask. Because if the daughter is
She's
mature
14.
enough to know that like this is a thing, then I think the daughter should be mature enough to understand that like this situation as a whole, even at 14, like
14's
seeing
kinda
that
young, man.
It's young, but not young where dad fucked grandma for years, and I don't understand why everyone's mad at him young.
That's true. I mean, that's... Yeah.
I'll say a 14-year-old think it exactly like that. Not like, oh, like it's not really his family. He married in, you know? It's more like, what? Like,
Not
Dad's fucking
gam
grandma?
gam. Not gam gam.
I learned a lot about a lot more about the relationship between my ex and my egg donor due to the homework the therapist gave us. My ex revealed more things which I believe to be true. My mom, who had actually tried to seduce him well before we were of age. From my ex's recollection, my egg donor took over the youth group when I was 15, and he was a few months from turning 15. Grooming began back then. She counseled him privately because he needed it. They kissed at some point when he was still 14, and that was all they did, meaning there was no like sex. They didn't have sex until he was 18, basically. It was right around the time of the first kiss that my mom convinced him to ask me out on a date so they could probably see each other more without suspicion. At this revelation, I was devastated. My entire relationship was built on a lie, and my husband never loved me. And also a sense of release knowing that I had absolutely nothing to do with their affair. The reason I believe this is true is that because when he asked me out, I had to get permission from my parents to date. At that time, the rule was no one could date before the age of 16. My mom went to bat for me, or so I thought. We started dating after he turned 15. The timelines kind of add up.
Bro.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if she put this kind of planning to like something even more like globally sinister. Like this bitch could take over the world.
This bitch
like that's
could.
just like next level shit right there.
No, dude, honestly, with this kind of fucking planning, she could be the next Iron Man.
Well, they did not have sex until he turned 18, and I guess that was her birthday present from her.
I mean,
it is a present.
I think I've seen this post somewhere, and this guy's friends used to call him Candles
What?
because on his 18th birthday he got blown.
I was like, I think that's where he's going with this, but
The twins and I reconciled fully. Now for the egg donor. My 34 female and 44 female sisters were the ones who helped me with the labor and the delivery plan. They were very supportive. When I was in the labor, my 14-year-old needed something from school. She needed to get picked up. So my ex was still on the pickup list. So he asked her dad to, pick something up for her. Because of the laws and stuff like the protective custody, my mom was not allowed to be anywhere near the kid. So my ex said she cannot come with him, and she got really pissed about it. So she apparently followed him in her car to the store and then to my sister's house and threw a temper tantrum in the front lawn of my sister's house. My ex broke up with her and told her she was too much drama and it wasn't worth it anymore.
wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and she flew into a rage and physically attacked him and started destroying things in my sister's yard. The cops were called, and the egg donor got arrested for domestic violence. At this point,
I can't believe this fucking story, man.
At this point, my sister, and I all took protective orders against her.
Restraining you.
Restraining orders due to the instability of the situation. My ex is allowed supervision at this point of my kids and even the kid that she gave birth to, basically.
I'm still just imagining, he picks his kid up from, the 14-year-old from school and dropped her off at Anne's house. And it's the same situation as when the OP told the rest of the family about what's happening. And, the kid just watching SpongeBob and, all of this shit's happening outside.
Yeah, it was upstairs versus now it's, outside in the front lawn for some reason.
They're Gam Gam's here.
So the divorce proceedings, he kind of agreed to just doing it mediated and uncontested divorce. And she will get half of everything, including the business and everything. As for the egg donor, she has gone into hiding. Once the twins told her that they would never ever live with her and they wanted nothing to do with her, especially after she got arrested, she began this whole guilt tripping and blaming them. She's now contesting the divorce from my dad and only speaking to him through his lawyer. The 38-year-old female sister finally got a wake-up call. And she was like, listen, mom was manipulating me this whole time. I was going through a lot because she couldn't reproduce herself and she was having trouble. So she was going through her IVF treatments and stuff like that. And basically she was like, I'm so sorry. And she's also talking to the dad again. And everyone's trying to reconnect overall. So I think the family is kind of recovering.
I want to know what that first Christmas after all this was like.
Just silently around the tree sipping eggnog.
I just want to know who shows up.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would show up, right?
Right?
You gotta cancel Christmas.
Yeah,
No, I think everyone would show up.
Who would show up? After
Everyone
this?
Or the
would.
Thanksgiving. It's like, hey, what are you thankful for this year?
Where else you gonna go? Both sides of the family are the same.
That's also true.
Everyone's related to the mom, man. The grandma. Everyone's related to her.
She's gotta be master manipulator, grooming this kid, getting him to.
She gave that reason of oh yeah, I was postpartum, and postpartum is a real thing. It's a very real thing, but this is not postpartum, and especially
She probably went through depression and she
didn't
was
know.
ignored.
But all of these signs are not you can't put that on postpartum. Grooming, manipulating, threatening, emotionally abuse, threatening with abortion after the fact.
So
Yeah,
It's not postpartum.
So I was actually confused a little bit because I was like, oh, why did they only give the house to one kid and not the others? But the mom was like, oh, she already has she got pregnant at 16 or whatever. So let's just give her a house, which is right next to us. So she could just walk over and, fuck him anytime she wants. Maybe she was in love with him. I don't know. I'm just...
She's like, I mean, I guess all signs point towards that, but oh man,
She did say that she fucked multiple
Yeah.
people after.
Was it after?
her
Yeah.
birth? So 4 months after her birth.
After
The birth of
OP's
OP.
the
yeah.
OP's birth.
What I'm saying is that like this was like her one of her longest relationships. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
This is it's a long ass. They were together. Let's be real here for 20 plus years.
22.
Yeah,
22 to be
years,
exact.
right?
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
I just feel so bad for the OP because she was literally never truly loved. She never experienced love.
I think she was loved by
By who?
3 different sets of people in this situation, and I think they shown it, right? Like she said, her sisters, not the one that was being manipulated by the mother. They took her in, no questions asked. They helped her. They were helping her with the birth and stuff. Her daughter, it's a kid at the end of the day, but her kid was like, kind of initially was like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up, but
Yeah.
let's try to make this work for me, type thing. And then the dad, right? The dad was genuinely like, sad and tried to take care of all of his kids, even the ones that weren't his.
But I mean, okay, no. I don't think that she didn't get loved, but I'm saying loved by a partner, right? She was manipulated into believing that
Give
she
it
was
give it a couple more years. Maybe the dad might pull up.
What dad? The ex?
No, I'm talking about
Her own father. Fuck,
Yeah,
man.
I was like, bro.
This whole fucking twisted.
No,
family
it'd be the
crap.
husband's dad.
Yeah,
It would be the
husband's
husband's
dad.
dad. Yeah.
Grandpappy's home.
Yeah, I mean, that was the story I had. What do you guys think?
That was good.
That was good.
was
That was
entertaining.
wild.
Too many plot twists, honestly, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about this.
I read this and I was like, oh, maybe I should find something that's a little bit more tame. But then I was like, nah, let's just go full throttle. All right, then. I guess that's all I have for this week. I hope you guys had fun with the podcast this week. What do you guys think? Let's just have some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I will say, glad the writers are getting paid. Hoping for whatever justice is going on, whatever the justice needs to be for the Canadian Indian situation. And I'm a little shook from that, what is it, truth off my chest. But I'm glad that the ending seemed like a semi-happy ending, considering all this shit that went down in there.
There was a lot on her chest, bro. Like, this
Yeah.
was a lot to take off. That's a load.
Not as big of a load as
As
the
the
husband
husband,
had.
yeah,
on-
no.
Like, this was basically a mastectomy, bro. Like, that shit is all off her chest.
Yeah.
Jesus. Well, I think this was a good one, but I think we need to hit the hay. So, see you guys till next time.
Peace out.
Talk to you guys later.